Hello, everyone. My name is Gary Baumgarten, but I expect you already know that, and I welcome you to this latest edition of the Gary Baumgarten Report. Here comes Major James Betts. All of us are having problems right now with inflation and with supply chain issues, and it occurred to me, and I guess I'm correct because that's why you're here, that the Salvation Army, which provides services to literally millions of people every year, you're struggling too for the same reasons that the individual households are struggling to try to help people. So I'm calling our chat, The Salvation Needs Our Help This Holiday.
Absolutely. And actually, that's something that people haven't asked us about specifically. So I'm really glad that we're having this conversation. And the supply chain issues really kind of hit us from a couple directions. In reality, because folks are already struggling to get the gifts for their own family, which makes them less in a position necessarily to buy gifts for others. And then at the same time, as people are giving us money to buy gifts, those gifts are costing that much more if we're the ones purchasing those gifts. And it becomes more difficult to get the gifts that we need. So it is certainly hitting us on both directions.
Yeah. So is the demand much greater this year than in previous years because of the pandemic?
It is. The families that came to us during the pandemic, which were, as we've talked about before, just incredible numbers. Last year, during the pandemic alone, we served over 11 million meals. You figure we're typically serving about 1 million meals a year just in New Jersey. And during the pandemic in Jersey alone, we served over 11 million. So those families have stayed engaged with us. A lot of those demand numbers have remained high. A lot of folks are not still back up to full strength with jobs and catching up on bills. So that's huge. So Christmas comes along, and not only do you have the supply chain demands for toys, but also for food. So if anybody that has gone out shopping for Thanksgiving has felt the pinch, and it's been more than a pinch, it's been more like a punch, actually. And so when you multiply that across the thousands and thousands of people that we're helping and providing for, it's an enormous challenge in front of all of us.
Yeah. What can people do to help?
Well, we can ask them to do what they've done before, continue to give generously. They can go to salvationarmynj.org, where we can hook them up with an opportunity to either donate financially. They can also find on their links to virtual angel trees. So a lot of folks aren't comfortable going out into the store and buying toys right now. So on there, we have a partnership, for instance, with Walmart, where they can click on a location that's near them, a Salvation Army location, and they can choose children right off of that website and buy those toys virtually and send those over to us. It'll get shipped right to us, and we can get those to the families. The other thing, frankly, is volunteering. With the shortage of workers that is across all industries, that hits us as well. So where we need people able to go out on those red kettles and ring those bells, that becomes a challenge, a big challenge for us. And so if people are able to give a couple hours here and there, or maybe as a family, they want to commit to taking a day at one location and say, we'll cover this with different members of our family and ring the bell for you. That's huge. That's tremendous. That means that all the donations that come in through that location will go straight to helping people versus potentially paying a salary or having to do other expenses to try to get people out on that kettle.
Yeah. A lot of people don't realize this, but the Salvation Army touts the fact that in virtually every community in this nation, and I know in many other countries around the world, and we do have a global audience here, the Salvation Army is there to serve.
Absolutely. And the thing about the Army is we're there. We're part of those communities. And I think we've talked about this on occasion as well, where it's not so much that we come into town during a disaster and go out, or some people think we just wake up at Thanksgiving, go out, ring the bells, help people for Christmas, and then go back into hibernation. The reality is we're out 365 days a year, and not only helping to meet the needs of people stuck in poverty or stuck in a crisis, but then working to break the cycle of poverty for those families as well.
I'm getting a message from one of our viewers who says in his will, he is leaving the Salvation Army and 7 other charities $25,000 each. And That's a good point too. As much as you want money right now, maybe people feel more comfortable giving it up when they no longer need it, can't take it with them, and there is a way that they can provide in such cases.
And that's huge. And frankly, when we're talking to those donors or those folks who would be inclined to do that, we always say to them, take care of your family first. But if you're able to do this for us and remember us in that time, that can make a real difference for folks. And frankly, what they're doing is they're not just providing for a meal or providing toys, but they're providing a way for folks to feel like somebody sees them, somebody cares about them. Many of the families, frankly, that we're talking to now are not just coming in and saying, hey, I'm struggling to put food on the table, but they're coming in broken. They're coming in like, I don't see a way out of this thing. And so when they see their neighbors stepping up, either at the Red Kettle or through charitable gifts and estate gifts and leaving us in their will, that just communicates enormous messages to those people that there are people out there who see them, who care about them, and are willing to do what they can to make a difference.
You touch on an issue that I was discussing in a more global sense, not specific to the Salvation Army, while waiting for you to join us, Major Betts, and that is there are a lot of people who are struggling emotionally, a lot of depressed folks in our society. And I don't think a lot of people realize that the Salvation Army actually provides counseling services as well.
Exactly. And the Salvation Army really comes alongside people wherever they're at. Now we are a faith-based organization as well. So if someone comes to us and says, I'm just broken, my heart is broken, we will sometimes say to you, do you want to talk about that? Is that something we can pray for? Is that something we can discuss on a deeper, even a spiritual level? We absolutely want to do that. And we thank God for being with those people. There are times, frankly, that we will refer them to professional psychologists, et cetera, and we can help connect them with people. Absolutely. But sometimes it's just needing someone to sit and talk with. I believe I saw a stat recently that 2020 saw more overdoses in a single year than we have on record. That's phenomenal. So that breaks my heart, and it just re-energizes us to engage with people and to get out and see what we can do to make a difference in their lives.
So for people who are watching this live, I know a lot of folks will watch it on Memorex, but maybe that's not a good reference. It dates myself. But for those people who are watching this live, this is Thanksgiving Eve. And I know tomorrow, Thanksgiving Day, is a big day across the nation for the Salvation Army. Is there still time for people to volunteer?
Sure, there would be. It depends on their local Salvation Army. So across the country, across the world, really, we've been feeding Thanksgiving dinner for about a week now. So there are some settings where people are already coming to us on a regular basis where we were able to sit down with them. In other settings, we've taken our mobile units out to the streets and we've met people where they are and sat with them to share a meal with them. We try not to say, we're here to serve you, but to say, hey, can we break bread together as brothers and sisters? And so that has been happening and continues to happen. Some of our locations would be doing live meals tomorrow. So I would encourage your viewers or your listeners to reach out to their local Salvation Army, and they can find that through Google, or they can do they probably already know where it's located in their community. Or you can, for New Jersey, we can go to salvationarmynj.org. And even if you're not in New Jersey, if you go through that site, our folks can help you find the location nearest you, wherever that might be.
I think we may have had a discussion about this before, but I've had years ago, but I did have an association with both the Salvation Army and the Red Cross in a bit of a volunteer capacity. And I will say that sitting down with somebody, serving them a meal, or handing them a package of toiletries following a disaster, it's good for them, but it's really, in my opinion and in my experience, it's pretty darn good for yourself as well.
It really does make all the difference in the world. And, people talk about their jobs and whether they love their job or don't love their job. I really do am encouraged by the fact that when we go out to do what we do, that it comes back to us tenfold. You know, we think we're going to help other people when in reality, it's doing such incredible things for us as well. And I'm not saying we go out with selfish motives, but we certainly never return empty in our own hearts in the process. I think other people would begin to see that as well as they reach out and do what they can to make a difference.
Major James Betts, Salvation Army in New Jersey. It's always great to see you, and have a very happy Thanksgiving and the rest of the holiday season as well. And thanks for doing this.
Thank you, Gary, and thank you for your patience as this technology gets figured out again. And I'm just so grateful we've had the opportunity to have this conversation and see what we can do to inspire others to help make a difference.
Well, look, you and I are forging forward right now like the Wright brothers, and we did not crash because I'm using a new program to get us on the air here, which streams to YouTube, Facebook, and to Twitter as well. And my folks at Pal Talk, of course, always pick up my conversations. And so you might have had a little trouble with the technology. I'll talk to you about that offline. I appreciate your patience.
No problem. It's my pleasure.
Okay. And to everyone else, you have a happy Thanksgiving. And if you're not in the United States and watching, you could have a happy Thanksgiving too. You don't have to be an American. And until the next time we get together for one of these chats, peace out.